primary, where all of a sudden, I think the one poll said on Saturday, 63% were willing to switch their votes, and 20% had already decided they would not decide until primary day. So, you know, it's a little bit like the couple who walked up close to me last night in Derry. They said, well, we saw Santorum yesterday and we saw Romney this morning, and now we heard you, so we're going to be for you, but we want you to know we checked everybody out first. Well, we were at Mass Saturday afternoon, and a man turned around and said, Director Trump says, he wrote me a note, it just said, I happened to have breakfast with Ron Paul and Mass with you all on the same day. He said, only in New Hampshire would it be like this. I think it's a little bit what it's like. You know, but the process we're going through is really, really important, and I really appreciate PSNH having this kind of organized opportunity, because this is the process over the course of months by which the American people talk with themselves and sort of take stock of where are we, what do we believe in, where do we want to go, who do we think can get us there. And you know, it's not just a game, it's not just who has the most clever consultants who can run the most negative ads, but it's a fundamental process of free people trying to think through our future for our children, our grandchildren, and in many ways, every 4 years we help define our country by the kind of choices we make. And I think this is a particularly important election, both in terms of the signals we send to Washington about who we want to be, and in terms of practical realities. And let me separate the two. We have a president who is probably the most radical president in American history. I mean, I think he's sincerely radical, but I think that nonetheless, if you look at his background, he's really a lot more Saul Alinsky and radicalism than he has anything to do with the traditional American models. And we see the various results of it. I think that makes this, in some ways, the most important election in modern times, because 8 years of Barack Obama will fundamentally change the nature of America. And so, in that sense, it becomes a question of values and directions. Do we want to remain, in a sense, the essentially New Hampshire country, a country which was founded on freedom, a country which began and conquered in Lexington, although if you go to your state capital, you'll see a little museum that's really very clever, which points out that the first surrender of British arms was in New Hampshire when they surrendered a fort months before the first shots were fired. It's just that New Hampshireites were quite clever and they got to surrender without firing a shot. You don't get the first shot fired around the world because you were quietly successful. New Hampshire created the first state constitution before the Declaration of Independence. So in many ways, New Hampshire was at the very forefront of individual liberty. And what was that liberty based on? Well, if you read the Declaration of Independence, it says, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, the reason that's central to American exceptionalism is we are the only country in history which says power comes from God to each one of you personally. You are personally sovereign. And therefore, you loan power to the state. The state doesn't loan power to you. That's why the Constitution begins, we the people. Now, these rights are unalienable. That means no judge, no bureaucrat, no president can get between you and the rights God gives you. It's also why the Second Amendment starts the way it does. And it talks about the right to bear arms already pre-existing, and that Congress can't mess with it. It doesn't say we're giving you the right to bear arms. You already had the right to bear arms because that was your God-given granted power in order to protect yourself, something that Patrick Henry talked about. So in that context, there's a real question that we'll be deciding this fall. Which direction do we go? Do we remain in America where the citizen is sovereign and the government is the servant? Or do we become a European-style system where the government is sovereign and the citizen is servant?